From labs to markets, welcome to today's episode of RK on AI Show, the Applied AI podcast. Join Rajan and Kashi as they decode the AI landscape to extract strategies that actually work for your business. Let's jump right in.
Hey Kashi, we're
Hi
live.
Rajan. So it's week of the Valentines. So how many models are you dating this week?
I know the pun is intended. So many models this week, man. So many
Oh,
models came out this week, and
okay.
enough, not
Which is
enough
your
time.
favorite? Which one is your favorite so far?
I'm most impressed by Gemini. Gemini
Okay,
3
you
Deep
fell
Think.
for the American blondes. Yeah.
You know,
Uh,
I am not a big fan of Google. You know that, right? You know the thing
yeah.
that I say about Satya versus Sundar, and I say that
Mm,
everybody in their organization, they need to bring their Satya inside and remove the Sundar out, and not try to be
okay.
beautiful and cute, and really
Yeah.
bring the truth inside in dealing with all this AI war. But I am actually impressed by what is happening with Google Gemini 3. Right? I feel that. We're going to talk about a bit of the Chinese models. Are Chinese model your favorites?
Oh yeah, they have blown my heart. Now I love MiniMax 2.5.
Oh
It's
man, there you
totally
go
too
with the
good.
name MiniMax.
Yeah. And even I must say, by no means GLM 5. It was a great release. We spoke about it. I think, and I don't know, people are not talking so much about Seed Dance 2.0. I think that's also awesome in video generation. I think they really raised the bar, I think. So I think, yeah, I'm quite impressed with them. So let's talk a little more into Gemini 3, right? What about Gemini 3? I mean, I still don't have access to the preview. What about Gemini 3? Are you so
Yeah, I
excited?
think that part about not having access is the most critical part, right? I
Hmm.
think one of the things that I find impressive about Google, and I know I'm
Hmm.
changing my tune a little bit, is just the way they drive strategy. See, what these
Hmm.
Chinese models have done is that literally commoditized. We spoke about it last time, saying that they're introducing plywood and it is not great quality, but they are just, cratering the price. On the one hand, all these Chinese models are going for absolute commodity from an intelligence perspective. The strategy from Google is interesting, right? Google is someone who has the access to the hardware now. You know, we'll talk a little bit about that ARC AGI benchmark, which is supposed to be the best benchmark for AGI right now.
Hmm.
But the maker of that benchmark is based in Google. I mean, he works at Google. So they have access to the benchmark. They have the best model. They have demos. They have the hardware. And the strategy that they're employing is they have the distribution, right? They have the distribution from a reach perspective through Chrome and through Android. And through Chrome and Android, they have made like the general search, the low end search, consumer level intelligence available to everybody. But on the other hand, they're executing this interesting strategy where it requires deep trust and credibility to be built, where the Gemini 3 model is something that has passed the IMO exam, right? It has also crossed 87% at the RKGI benchmark, which is insane, right? It is only O3
Absolutely
which had actually
shocking.
beaten that benchmark. So they are doing this razor and blade strategy. It's just like, let me give free intelligence to everybody, which is what was the case in 2025, from nowhere being around in the token count, and they became the number one player in terms of token count, maybe 1,500 trillion tokens in 2025 per month by December 2025. So they got the reach, but now they're saying that, when universities, when pharma companies, and they have to actually trust that the models that will work and will not hallucinate. So they are coming up with this deep think model, which is solved IMO, which is solved RKGI, right? So they are working there on the credibility side. So when people are going to sort of deploy hundreds of millions of dollars, Google models are the ones that they're going to trust more, and they may not be playing the cheap and how do I get cheap access to the token game. So they are providing a formidable strategy response to the Chinese model, at which is what I think is fantastic about from a Google perspective. And if I just look at it through the lens of Anthropic, they just have one model and they just like been providing and improving that and improving that. No doubt, it has like step jump, sometimes like marginal jump. but they don't have like a coherent strategic response the way Google has to what China is doing. And that is perhaps the reason
Oh
the
yeah.
Anthropic team is saying safety and like, creating a lot of fear mongering. That is what I find the most impressive about the Gemini 3 model. So I was able to sort of look at some of the response through some researcher who had access to the 249 plan. But yeah, I
Hmm.
myself don't have access to the plan, which I think is part of their strategy.
Oh yeah, I'm quite frustrated. I don't have access to it. But on that note, we said we'll set strategic vision for CXOs in time to come. So I want to draw our attention to what Google did. So I know many of you have missed it. So I'll probably enhance what Rajan has said, and hopefully I don't have a glitch sharing it this time. Here we go. Rajan, are we able to see my screen?
Yes.
So, Rajan, as we go through the screen, right? I mean, this is sort of emphasizing, right? What I saw from Google, right, is really raising the bar. Genie 3 was out there for some time. Now, I started looking at, hey, they're also starting the narrative on Gemini Robotics, which is the advanced VLM model, which VLM stands for Vision Language Model for those of you who are still catching up. But having said that, uh, I saw this, I applied for the wait list. Hopefully, we get access to it. But having said that, this is really insane. They're truly thinking about what does future of work look like? How do we start making manufacturing adopt AI at a different scale? So I think my first question to you on this, right? Hey, now that Gemini Robotics is coming, what do you think is the strategic implication for manufacturing companies? What should they think about? Should they start toying up with it? What's the right time? Is it now?
See, even last year, I saw like a bunch of activities from a robotics perspective. I saw two things. One is I saw a bunch of well-funded companies doing really well, coming up with good demos. But then I also saw a lot of open source companies, like trying something and then shutting down. I feel that on the robotics side, we still are pre-GPT-2 moment, right? Even in
Hmm.
2026. But maybe that is one of the places where you should actually get involved early. Um, like, look, everybody, whoever is trying to actually deal with change, they need to put together a small team that is tinkering, right? So you want to put
Yeah.
together a very small team which is going to just tinker with all the things that are happening. You should go attend robotics conference that is happening in China and in Bay Area to see what is happening from a latest perspective. China more for the hardware reason, and US more from like what is happening from a state of the art of like building everything around the hardware, right? Whether it is the harness, the model, the benchmarks, and things like that. So manufacturing company should put together a small team, but I feel it is a little early. Google is perhaps the farthest. They had acquired Boston Dynamics, and then now they have actually made all these leapfrogging in the models, and a lot of work is going on. So definitely, like it will be like an early place for people to come and do some tinkering.
Oh yeah, even Jetson Nano gave some Nvidia gave that hint and so on and so forth. I'll shift a little focus to Chinese models. So did you get to try any of them? Or you're just, yet to get your hands on
GLM
them?
5, I actually
Okay.
tried it on Model. Model is this inferencing provider which made it free for almost about a week.
Hmm.
Um, very, very powerful model. It's one of those MOE models. I think we can declare that the MOE architecture is pretty much a dominant architecture, and I haven't tried to the extent where it feels to me like Codex 5.3. I'm a little bummed with all the things that I am experiencing at 4.6. Like my context gets filled up, and I'm not able to sort of reset, and I lose a lot of sessions. So I've actually shifted to Codex, but to Codex 5.3 level, I'm not able to see the bump up. I saw some of the demos of 5.3 Spark, where the speed seems to be insane, but still making some mistakes and things like that. So like very very powerful model, even if it does like 4.5, like getting there, and then also the memory footprint is much smaller. Like these Unsloth guys had actually created a quantized version which you can use to run it in much lesser memory footprint. And now with GLM 5, I think more and more people are saying that, hey, can I run it in a local machine, maybe like a few tokens a second, and then when that happens, right, the economics itself changes. I tweeted or put a post on LinkedIn 2 days ago saying that, a model this powerful almost 2 years ago would be like a state secret. Right? Today it is available in an MIT license, right?
Yeah,
And if
absolutely.
I'm not wrong, Kashi, you may know this better. I think this is perhaps the first model that has not been trained on NVIDIA hardware. Perhaps
Yeah,
it is
Hyundai
trained on
accent.
entirely the Huawei,
Yeah, Huawei.
chipset,
Yeah, yeah.
which means it is a big deal geopolitically. Am I right about the hardware
Oh
part?
yeah, I think you said I know it's one of the Huawei chips. I wanted to get a hand on it just to see how good it is. Um, but I'm truly impressed, right? So imagine something like this trained on a Huawei chip, even it's half correct. I think it changes economics. So imagine not every country or geopolitically every one can afford a Nvidia Hopper or a Blackwell or something. And if market is going to be flooded with this Huawei chips, it's same thing what happened in India. Xiaomi came to India, OnePlus came to India, they flooded the market with the phone. And what it did is democratize telecom in India. And of course, we can talk about pros and cons of that at some time. But when it comes to democratizing ability to access these chips, I think I see that very powerful. On this note, I want to draw our attention back here to India. I saw Servam AI release. Um, what are your first take on it? I'm impressed. Like a couple of things they have done is mind blowing. But I want to get your first take before I share my tinkering with it.
So I want to sort of hold my judgment on this, right, a little bit, because I've not fully tried yet, right? And one of the things that I've actually almost come to adopt as a principle is that don't go by your experience 6 months ago, right? It may be completely wrong. 6 months ago when I tried it, I wasn't impressed at all. Any of the thing that they built, whether it was the OCR, the vision model, or whether it was Bulbul, the text model,
What?
right? I
Yeah.
wasn't impressed. I recently saw a tweet from DD who was very critical before. Then I think he changed his mind. So I'm actually keen on trying out. Couple of our startups, they have still not said great things yet, right? So, but again, I don't want to sort of depend on their own judgment. I just want to sort of try it out myself. I haven't tried out the model, so therefore I want to reserve the judgment. I want to be cautiously optimistic without sounding as if I'm like using a hedge. But like earlier, like no, I didn't like it, right? But I'm guessing that that position may change, and especially when you say something, Kashi, then I go and check it out. So I'm definitely going to check it out with an open mind and then see whether I like it or not.
I think I think there are two takes on it. It's not some areas not good enough. I agree. But what I loved about it is like I created a small prototype, tried it out with my parents, tried it out with like my parents don't really speak a lot of English. I mean they do understand, but when I was trying this out, I sort of realized that the local language capability is quite impressive for something
Even
that's coming
compared to
out.
Google Gemini, because a bunch of folks before told me that look, I mean, there is no perceptible difference between what Sarvam is
Uh,
doing and Google is
Certain
doing, even in Indian
pronunciations when
languages.
you do texture voice, we call
Ah,
sampge mara. I'm using a local Kannada word here, but you try to utter that out from a Google, the sound sounds like probably sort of Englishish pronunciation, but I think the local pronunciation is much better tuned in Sarvam. That's one. So, which means that implication is local call centers, speaking out to, you know, what we call, we have multiple tiers of India. So, I think reaching tier 2, tier 3 India, I think it has a lot of positive implications. When it doesn't sound a lot of what you can
very
say.
local. Yeah, the
It
tweet
sounds
that
local. I think
Pratyush
that's
had
a
put out,
positive.
right?
Yeah.
That part also had like a couple of demos, and I felt that it did not cross the uncanny valley there. It it
Mm,
was having like a local Bihar person respond on a phone call, and the model response sounded very robotic, right? So
yeah.
I mean, look, this is at the end of the day, like things like this, you just have to try it and then see it for yourself. And even if you have tried it 6 months ago, you have to try it again. Then you need to sort of form your view. So I'm gonna definitely on your recommendation, I'm gonna go check it out again.
Yeah, I thought to give them a cheer for whatever they have done. So I think we'll go there. So shifting back to Chinese models. So I just want to concentrate on this, right? So for the first time when I tried out Minimax, I felt, hey, here's a true alternative coding model that's truly state of art. So I had a couple of projects that I tried it out on JavaScript and Python. I think like it's truly amazing. What I found interesting is um, every time a frontier lab launches a model from US, uh, I think DeepSeek launched after a long period of time, but now you see, right, the launch window within a week. Anthropic launches, and you have labs from our Chinese friends launching. So the competitive landscape is increasing, which is what I love about this. And you truly have a model that costs at least theoretically one fifth. Uh, be available. What it means is it democratizes ability to access technology, which is what I love about the entire competitive landscape they are putting out there. I
So
would
not
say
good news
on
for American models. While you call it as democratization, they call it as commoditization.
yeah,
And
that's
like,
correct.
how will we
That's
get
that's a
access to,
perspective,
and
right?
how will we recoup the money that we invested in it?
Yeah, yeah. I truly, if you call it democratization, they may call it commoditization. But truly see that happening, which implies that as technology scales, right, I think the structure of organizations would change. And on that topic, I want to ask you a question, right? Hey, now that the scale at which the coding models are coming, especially, what impact does it have on structure of the organization? I think we need to sort of address it more and more. Definitely, the number of developers strongly believe will start to reduce. But on contrary, number of people who manage these agents, complexity is increasing, is constantly increasing. So, what do you think is happening? You wrote a beautiful book on this topic, I guess,
Well, it was
shipping
an
at the speed of
internal,
light.
yeah,
So, I want to hear
internal.
more from you on this topic.
Right, right. So it is an internal node, I would say, and uh, this is really following all the different, I would say, models that people are using to use agents, right? So we've crossed over places where we're not working with one single agent, right? Even Claude 4.6 had released swarms. We talked about it. So what is happening is multiple agents are taking up roles, and then making sure that things are happening parallelly, faster. You're using what are called these TMUX screens, which will look like a scene out of the Matrix movie. You have like square boxes, 4 or 5 of them in one single screen, and then you're seeing multiple agents that are working. So there is this simple loop Ralph Wiggum that Akash uses, like bunch of other folks found, a bunch of other developers use. Then there is a simple loop that Peter of OpenClaw uses. Then there is Jeffrey Huntley, who actually came up with Ralph Wiggum. There is the official plugin. Then there is Steve Yuggy's Gas Town. So there are all these different kinds of orchestration of agents that are there. And what they are saying is that, look, there are assumptions that we used to make in software development life cycle, which you should question and challenge, right? And one of the first blog posts that I saw was from Peter, where he wrote in November or December, where he said it is shipping at the speed of inference. So I just took a pun on it and saying shipping at the speed of thought, saying how do you actually get to generating, let's say, about 100 to 300 commits a day, which is what Peter puts out. And if like it may look like an output metric, but then when you frame the problem like that, then you question all the assumptions that you made with respect to software development, right? Do you code review? Do you commit to the main branch? And what are the things that you would do to sort of do that? So the simple approach that Peter used is something that I liked a lot. So what you do is you start with a simple planning or a conversation with an agent, and from there you generate like a plan document or a PRD document, and then you write a small CLI which will take this plan and then convert it into a GitHub issue, and then it'll label this in multiple different roles, saying that this is ready for shipping, this has been shipped, this is ready for human review. And then you run multiple Claude instances on a loop to say, okay, go to GitHub and then fetch these things and then update, and then just ensure that you're writing tests on your own, and then publish it to the main branch, and with one caveat saying that you immediately mark it for human review, and then make it really easy for you to do rollbacks, right? So when you set up an architecture like this, then you're actually removing a lot of friction in getting you to this high level of commits on a particular day, but then you're also sort of setting up structures to roll back if there are any errors, right? So Peter used this. I was trying to actually replicate this. This questions a lot of assumptions that we used to make in software development lifecycle, right? So still very early. I don't think one structure is right over other. This is not the same Ralph Wiggum structure where you're running in two different loop. Akash runs two loops, one for generating the plan, another one for reading the task in a very similar kind of a way. I think the overall principle I would say is KISS. Keep it simple and stupid, right? So whatever is going to be the most simplest, you use that, but at the same time, try to make sure that you are orienting towards a certain parallelism. And then, but when you step back and think about it, it's not just about you generated 300 commits and then you have millions of lines of code, but then it is not doing what you intended to do, right? So then it is totally useless. So someone who is wielding a system like this, they also need to have a little bit of judgment, right, to say, hey, this is what I'm looking for, and if that is not there, then how do you undo and how do you actually make these changes. So that's what will lead to shipping at the speed of thought, which is like, okay, I came up with this thinking. At the end of the day, I'm able to ship something which is really really fast. And this also then forces you to think about this question that you initially asked, saying, how do you think about design of organization? One of the things that this is becoming apparent and coming up again and again in the recent past is the saying that the future of work is human plus agents. And here, future of work, here is future of development is human plus agents, and what combination of human and agents need to be there. And in fact, we don't even have benchmarks for that. Right? We only have benchmarks which talk about SWE and HLE and ArcAJ and all of these. It just says is what is it that one model can do, but we have no benchmarks. There is, at least I haven't seen any research study where they're talking about, okay, multiple LLM instances are talking to each other and they are talking to human, right? And in this combination, what is the right way to split work, who should be given what piece of work and things like that. So it's still very early, Kashi.
Oh, I think when there are no benchmarks, there's opportunity for all to build one. So Giri and I just spoke about it to build one like human plus agent benchmark. I think sort of like to dwell more on it. Um, I think importantly, like I'm coming back to this question again, right? So I like what Elon Musk did. While it was not so popular at that point in time, he came to Twitter. He said, "No more organization does not need to really have so many people. We need to cut the number of people or like the load so that we can move faster." So here's a real question, and that's a reason all the IT stocks are shaking. But even less, should leaders think of strategically disrupting the organization today to actually move faster? Has the time really come that we shed the weight?
See, there is a organization view about it. I know where you're going with this, and we've had private conversations about this. There is an organizational view about this, or let me rephrase. There is a corporate view about this, and then there is a broader societal view about this, right? See, the corporate, if you really think about it, it is a psychopath in the sense that corporate only cares about profit, right? It is deeply capitalistic, right? And when you actually put that lens, and that is a lens that you ought to put, when you're saying, hey, how do I build companies? Most Indian companies don't think that way, but American companies think that way, saying that corporates exist for pursuit of profit, right? And when that is the case, you have to actually think about it very differently. There was this one beautiful line I saw in Stevie Yogi's recent blog post. He said, he was at Google, he was at Amazon, and he's at another organization right now. He says, he's always noticed. He was commenting on Anthropic. He said, people at Anthropic are always very excited. He said, he's always noticed that wherever there is less work than people, or wherever there is more people than work, politics starts, and that's where the decline of an organization is. Right. And what AI has done is, by default, the organizations didn't have to do anything. Customer count did not have to go up or down. By default, what has happened is that there is a situation where there is more people than work. So obviously, the right choice is for a corporate leader to actually look at it and then say, "Hey, what is going on, and how do we actually make sure that we balance this out, right?" And one of the things that I was sharing with you in private was that one of the founders that I know that worked together with, he realized this 18 months ago, and then he restructured his organization where he was only 40% of his organization. after the restructuring.
Wow,
It sounds very
that's
brutal.
super
I mean,
cool.
when you look at
Yeah.
the societal
Mm.
impact of it, or impact on the jobs, it sounds very brutal. And then he ensured that the rest of the 40% are always on the cutting edge of what there is to learn about AI. And he didn't actually belong to like a core AI domain, right? He was working in a completely different domain in hardware, right? But he was saying that how do I use AI to become an AI first organization? Started writing books. Started doing events, and took his team to work with the best of the best, hang out with the best of the best, and then he changed a lot of this. So I often share that example with others, saying that look, when you think about teams, and we have to think about teams radically, right? You need to have the courage to do this. It's a difficult thing, right? In the morning, I was talking to some of my other partners, friends, and we were talking about the job situation is really really bad. I know a lot of people who are not finding jobs, right? So on the one hand, we are talking about saying that as corporate, they need to sort of relook at saying, hey, is there more people than there is work? But then there are a lot of people, like friends that I have seen are not able to sort of find jobs, and more of them are going the path of being like solo founder. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a tricky one. Kashi, what's your take?
I think I have I think I'll see both views, but I'll be sharp on answering this. I think you need to cut the slack before you actually grow back again, because we need to learn to move faster. The speed is a People who are not fast actually are doing a disservice to your organization. Reason being that is, like, if there are 100 people in the team, you'll take all 100 down instead of just taking 40 down. So it's rather that you can take 40 along for longer period of time. So whatever that ratio may be. The second is that I'll put it from an employee perspective. I'm asking myself this question day in, day out. Hey, how do I create agents or start delegating work to AI such that I drive more economic value to the organization, more economic value to the society, and so on and so forth? Which means we have to fundamentally rethink the way we organize a day. So this was a topic we were talking about, right? How can I become 10x? I mean, there's only limited time. I don't have enough time to keep up with all that's happening in technology. I don't have enough time to keep up with all that is happening in business. So how do I keep up? So I started like this exercise saying that, hey, I started creating agents for myself so that, you know, what I need not do, I now start like, I'm not going to take a look at it. Let agent do it. And slowly that's starting to shape up. I think that's the imperative that we are looking at least for some of the white collar jobs and like partially people who are in competitive work. On contrary, I also see that this may be a short term phenomena, but as we go along, I feel that uh, the amount of quantum of work is going to increase. The reason being that is, if the work has to be done in the physical world, I think a lot we as human beings are far more efficient machines. In many ways, I think our abilities, if I put it in one perspective, right? The reason we are even speaking here is we are thinking about the future and setting ourselves to the future. We are describing that future. So when you're working with an LLM or an agent, the limitation is next token and probably a bunch of token, so on and so forth. But the basis is what has been created in the past to a great extent. We are thinking 3 years into the future, 5 years into the future, 10 years into the future, and sort of reshaping societies, economies, so on and so forth. I think that's where our value really comes. As a leader, that's more important. So on that note, we'll move to something lighter.
Yeah.
So what would you be looking forward to in coming week? Because it's like I see that a lot more models are going to launch. I anticipate at least Quen 3 coder. Quen is supposed to launch a new model. I don't know if it's out. I feel that that's going to come out and a couple of more of them. So how do you see the next
So
week
I'm
shaping?
actually fluctuating between the models and OpenClaw and the harness.
Mm,
Right. So for me, I've been just going back and forth. This
yeah.
week we're spending a little more time with the models. But I think, OpenClaw is the phenomena that I think we are still not wrapped our heads around, right? I was telling a friend that OpenClaw, we're going to remember OpenClaw like the Netscape moment of personal agent,
Hmm.
right? So what happened in January, right? And 3 weeks after that. And, yeah, I mean, it is an insecure operation, and that's where it gets its power. And now, like, when you bring it inside the enterprise, it is going to be like a nightmare. I was talking to our friend Akash and saying that he's doing something around it. It's like building CSPM for AI agents, right? So when you have at least 150,000 of these are getting installed, and seeing some stats saying 700,000 downloads every week. A friend of mine who works at a Neo Cloud, he said, his estimate is roughly about 1 billion instances are running. I said, isn't it too high?
Oh
He said,
wow,
no.
that's a lot,
And then I
right?
looked at some news today in the morning which said, China's deployment has overtaken the rest of the world. I mean, they've overtaken US. So I
Oh,
think, the pace at which OpenClaw has spread, right? That, pretty soon we will look at it as saying, man, this was like a defining moment. And the difference between OpenClaw and the models is, like, on one hand, we are talking about saying, hey, there is this platform razor and blade strategy that Google is driving. There is this plywood strategy that China is driving. But, by and large, seems to be that the commodity strategy is what is winning, which means that, people are going to say, hey, I don't care about the models. They're all going to be the same. And I want it cheap, 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 and cheaper. And then maybe even move it local. So we have on the one side that is that, which is like the engine design. Then on top of that, what is the car that you built? Like, even if you go to the premium strategy of Google, or if you say that China's commodity strategy, I think in both the cases, you building the car is the smarter thing to do, or you building the appliance on top of it is the smarter thing to do. And OpenClaw has literally opened up so many different, would say, opportunities. At least 4 or 5, right? People, like, whenever there is, like, WordPress, there is going to be WP engine, and then there is going to be security and backup, and there is going to be, like, hosting of that, and there is going to be like enterprise support of that. So this type of things are getting unlocked with OpenClaw. And like, when you just combine it with multiple like, interfaces, right? Whether it is Slack or others. And I'm most excited, and this is where I'm playing with, is like, one of my friend was showing his OpenClaw instance, right? He said, look, I created these 2 Slack bots, but I am finding it hard for the 2 Slack bots inside my OpenClaw to talk to each other. You would think it is very trivial. It is not, right? And anybody who's not played with it will find, like, will not know the issue, right? So these type of use cases, questions, and possibilities that are emerging on top of it. Look, OpenClaw may not be the one that is successful, right? And, like, nobody knows the Netscape, right? Unless you're from that era, people only know Internet Explorer, so it may be something else. But it is this unlock on the harness side. So I I just find myself sloshing between saying, okay, oh, cool engines, new engines, changes economics, right? And then you say, hey, harness, and, like, the design on top, the appliance on top, the car body on top. Like, how do you actually build? Do you build ambulances? Do you build, like, Mercedes, like, luxury cars and things like that, right? So I'm just sloshing between the two, Kashi.
I get what you're saying, right? Truly. So I'll small. I think all the three strategies are relevant. I think we'll see how that plays out. So I want to ask a question on this note, right? Again, I'm playing sort of like what's coming on my mind right away. When you looked at vending bench, I'm going back to the models and the benchmarks. Um, I'll probably share my screen on this note, right? And the reason I'm sharing it is because it'll help us sort of ground what we're going to converse on. So I was looking at the benchmarks here. I'm back at GLM 5. Vending bench sort of tells, they run a vending bench simulator and see how does retail vending machine make money, and vending bench GLM scored 5. So I was wondering, right? And of course, Gemini 3 earn the most amount of money theoretically, so on and so forth. So the reason I wanted to bring this up is, like, if I'm a business, right, should I start running these experiments? For me, this is like open cloud. Vending bench is also like open cloud to me, where you let AI do your work on your behalf and sort of running. So I want to do something like a Kirana bench, or like maybe some other bench, not bench, but run this experiment as a business owner to see what impact does it have on my operations. So what are the 2 3 experiments that founders, leaders should start thinking that they can start running, so that they understand the real world impact of how technology can be used to manage their organizations and steer them in the right way. So I was thinking supply bench, or like route bench. Like I see 1,000 possibilities which which will help organization create a strategic edge. What I don't want to happen, like this, where what we spoke last week, is these models should not be owned by Frontier Labs. They should be owned by, if I'm Hindustan Unilever, I would like to own it. If I'm an automotive maker, I want to own it, because this will probably be your strategic edge, collecting this data and having the ownership of it and owning your destiny, versus let Frontier Lab define that path. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, so I wrote a recent post on that, Kashi. We've chatted also a little bit about that. I titled this as saying "Own your own agents or rent your fate," right? Which
Yeah.
is, and I think that's the part that you're alluding to when you say actually benchmarks. You need to start with owning your engine, which is your model, because like if you become successful, you have that choke point in somebody else's hand, then they're going to sort of choke you and like put you out of business. So you need to have your own models. And great news is the models like GLM5 are MIT license, right?
Yeah.
Most liberal license that you can think of, right? So you need to own your model, but then you need to also build your own harness and things that you're going to do around it. Like what is it that you want to do for your domain, and how you're going to like create all these CLIs and MCPs that you'll build for your own organization, for your own industry, and how are you going to sort of orchestrate that? How are you going to sort of seek, like redesign your workflow, reimagine your workflow, and then use it with these models, and then see what is working. The only thing about benchmarks is benchmarks, like I said last time, is it has become a little bit of more like a marketing, the sense that the moment I would say it is beyond 65%, moment beyond 75%, it is not as much as like this model is greater than that model. You really need to actually run this for your own use case. So that's why even on the benchmark, I don't actually first look at benchmark. I know you follow this guy called Simon Willison, right? He's very prolific a blogger, is the author of Django, the Python framework, right? And he actually has a Pelican test. The moment a new model comes up, he asks the model to run draw a pelican, right? And last year at AI engineering conference, he had actually shown a year worth of model releases, and that's how he said state of AI, and like across the year these were the models, and I ran these across these models. This is how it. And for Gemini deep think, the Gemini 3 deep think also, he ran it, and I thought it was one of the best one, right? And he ran that for 5.3, the fast version that came out was not that great. So I feel that one is to say, hey, there is this number, and then it says 83 versus 85. But then when you put it into your domain, into your own projects, and then see what is working, I think that is where the real, I would say, discernment can be done. You can say, hey, this is working, this is not working, and things like that. And that's where some benchmarks are better over others. ArcAGI is supposed to be good. ArcAGI 2 was because somebody could OpenAI gamed ArcAGI 1 when they were doing inference time compute. So now they are coming up with the ArcAGI 3 benchmark. Therefore, I always go beyond the benchmark. Benchmark is for people who are not deep into it, right? They're like, oh, sure, we need to sort of put some thing in the marketing saying that we are better and it should look like legit and it should look like something coming out of research. But the real work is that you run it in your use case and you check not just the model. I saw a tweet 2 days ago where he said, same model, different harness. Sorry, same harness, different model, and I was able to sort of see the difference. And then people are saying that not only do you have to actually change the model, but you also have to change the harness. Harness meaning, how do you do the tool calling, and how do you actually coordinate, and how do you actually use memory, or which tools you use, and how do you actually manage the memory. So all these activities are harness around the work that you do using agent, right? So you need to tinker with harness, tinker with your model, and that's why you want to own your agents. So if you're building, it is better for you to own your entire agent architecture, entire agent stack, right? Otherwise, if you're a Hindustan Lever, you are going to give away your fate into somebody else's hand. They will learn, they will send FDs, forward deployed engineers. They will learn all
Yeah,
your
truly.
domain, and then eventually it will sit in their model, not your model. Then this is like writing your own death sentence.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't understand what it means. They think previously the sense of knowledge was in documents or like in some sort of artifact which people could read. But
Right, right.
what people are failing to understand is a new document or encoding of knowledge is a weights of the model. So it is so invisible that once it passes a few layers and anonymized, you don't know how it has percolated into that particular ecosystem, and suddenly you can have a competitor that can be a AI. So I think that's very powerful. I just have one point to add, right? On your model and on your destiny. So I would also say, probably beyond that, is people should understand like what is the difference between a deterministic system and
Yeah,
a
non-deterministic.
probabilistic system. So often they are lost in this all AI, and especially the generative AI era, that hey, this is still a probabilistic system. There are deterministic use cases which need to be dealt differently. So don't paint everything
With
red
the
and
same
green.
brush.
There are more. There are many possibilities that. There are a lot wide spectrum of possibilities. So for your use case, you may be somewhere in between. Sort of, you have to still walk the path to figure out where, in what end of the spectrum you really lie, and use that as a learning to actually build your organization. On
Yeah.
that note, I think we'll come to the
But
wrap.
before we wrap up,
Yeah.
Kashi,
Okay.
let's do our customary. What is one tool people should try this week? One research paper and one question that they should ask themselves in their teams.
Okay. Hard one, but I would go to one of the research papers that I was trying to read is NVIDIA Equity Research Report. I think the reason I am trying to look at it is like it gives a different perspective on what's happening. So of course, all the hardware news, and it's not truly a research paper, but it gives you signals of where the world is going in many ways. So there was a beautiful article by Wall Street Journal on this topic, saying that still people who are making the shovels are making the money in AI, not the others. The entire tech stock is taking a beat. I think that is soon to change. So I think it has to be the people in the application layer who's it's their time to make that money. So you asked me one paper to read, it would be that. It was probably a business paper than so much of a technical
Research
paper.
paper.
Yeah.
Tool?
So one tool to try. So I use OpenRouter a lot to try out multiple models. So I think uh, uh, irrespective of the model you try, go try out GLM5, which Rajan has tried. Try MiniMax. I'm sure you'll be surprised. It's awesome at many of the coding tasks, far cheaper. I think strong recommendation on this. One question to ask, right? It's very deep. What are the parts of your work you're letting the agents do without reviewing it? So I think it becomes an important question. We need to keep asking this again and again throughout the quarter. Reason being that is, if you continue to do what you're doing as a human, time will come that you will become irrelevant in your organization and irrelevant in your society. So better start pushing work to the agents so that you can do. There's a lot more to do. So if you don't do that, I don't think it's very fair for yourself. It's cheap. Lot many models are not as costly as anymore. Set up a budget of at least $10, $15, $20. I think that should be a fair budget to learn.
Awesome. So on that note, let's wrap up today's session.
Yeah. Wish you all happy dating with models.
See you
See you
guys.
then. Bye bye.
Got a hot take on AI? A burning question? Let us know what you'd like us to debate next. And hey, if you want to jump in the ring with us, drop your LinkedIn link and the topic you're itching to discuss. We'd love to have you on the show.